We are live a little bit. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Happy Sunday, wherever you are in the world. It's a Sunday somewhere. Um, my name is Ken Stearns. I'm the host of the JAR podcast here. This is really the JAR Foundation podcast, and we're calling it Mental Health Today. We've got Hao, a good friend, Hao Tran, with me. Hao and I know each other back in Vietnam. So this is kind of a great reunion. Haven't talked in about a year, Hao. It's been a year. And so it's great. First off, we had a great catch up off mic, and really good to touch base with an old friend. And Hao, welcome to the show. Thanks for being a guest. I really appreciate it. And why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and where are you at and how did you get there?
Thanks, Ken, for inviting me onto the podcast for the JAR Foundation. Hey, everyone, I'm Hao Tran. I'm Vietnamese American. So I was born in the States. I came to Vietnam about 7 years ago. I met Ken maybe halfway through that 7 years. He at the time we were actually living in the same building. I've since moved out, but he of that building as well. But he was an executive at an insurance company. I'm saying he, Ken, our host here. And I was running a company as well. I own a media company here in Vietnam. And we shared a lot of the similar kind of objectives and goals personally and professionally. I looked up to Ken in the sense that he was running a team of hundreds, if not thousands of people. And then on his side, he was really wanting to get into entrepreneurship, always really interested, especially so the company I own, Vietcetera, it's a media company, so content, very similar to what you're doing, Ken. And anyways, I've been doing that for 7 years and not been easy. The company's about 60 full-time staff now. We're a real business, and with that means like we're paying the salaries of people's lives that are people who are getting married, people who are having kids, people who are going through mental, or just challenges in life in general. And, some of them you don't know anything about because they're going through it themselves usually. And I've had my fair share as well. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. 7 years in Vietnam. I'm 30 now. I plan to be here for a while. And let's see. Vietnam's great. Come visit.
Yeah, it is, right? I couldn't make up a commercial for it. Just go. It's just a great place, great people, great food, great travel, and still first world travel level. And then also straight into rice fields and lovely people of the earth.
You can have everything.
You have it all.
It's not. That's the thing. As Americans, we see Vietnam in this part of the world in a certain lens.
Yes,
it's like it's where Apple makes its stuff. It's where you get your T-shirts. It's which is all true, by the way.
Which is all true, yeah.
But it's quite innovative. This place, it's really creative. It has its own culture that. I tell people the food scene here, not just Vietnamese food, but the international food scene.
Yes, agree.
In a lot of ways better than like the top cities in the US, let alone the US in general, because here you have great value. You have a lot of entrepreneurs that come from around the world wanting to start their own like the restaurants and bars. And so you have a lot of creativity and entrepreneurship as a result. That goes for anything, not just food and beverage. But anyways, maybe talk more about it a little later. That's my intro.
It's a pretty amazing story, really, landing there with just a job 7 years ago, and then building the company up to, like you said, powerful thought is that level of responsibility, the weight on your shoulders. I mean, you're 30, Hal, and you've got people, like you said, dependent upon what you're doing. Their weddings, paying for funerals. You said people going through all kinds of stuff, and you're all 60 people, really 60 separate stories. Every day they're kind of going through, and we don't know, right? We don't know what people are going through every day that we walk past.
Yeah, looking back to when I started the company in the early stages too, when you're like a 25-year-old, whatever,
Yeah.
you're a bit, and I still am to this point, a little delusional. And you're a little bit, you're operating in your own lane. Of course, you're building something. You need
Yes.
everyone's help to be on the same page. But I did lack a lot of empathy back in the day. But that's because, when you're younger, you feel like you're invincible, you're delusional, you're top of the world, you're building something.
Yes. Yeah.
I see that in a lot of young people that I work with today, the Gen Z especially, kind of like a replica of what I used to be.
So
Uh,
cool.
and I mean, I am much more self-aware now, I would say, even in
Yeah.
just in the last like 6 months, a lot of things have happened. I feel like every day is just an improvement. Um, that's true. Like I just went to this wedding of one of our senior staff members a few weeks ago, and he actually invited the whole company. It's a very Vietnamese
Yeah.
tradition.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Invite your bosses and your co.
Absolutely.
In this case, he went all out. He invited all 60 full time, and some of his ex colleagues who have since left the company, and it was pretty surreal. Um, I mean, it just makes me think, man, I haven't gotten married yet. I don't have a kid. Here's this 28-year-old getting married and doing this and doing that. I mean, it's great. I think it's just seeing them people's lives evolve.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be interesting. Like you said, you're a 25-year-old kid, and now you're a 30-year-old kid in a way, right?
Yeah,
It's like you said, still every day you're gonna like trying to become a better person, a better leader. But to see the impact, I mean, the opportunity you created is you're seeing it happen, right? All these people coming together over a celebration, and it's you, the center of it, right? The nexus is what you started.
this is separate from the wedding example, but this is hopefully relevant to a lot of the listeners today. Over the weekend, I had a chat with a friend of mine who works with our team. He's like a host of one of our podcasts. I don't see him all the time, like once a month at
Hmm.
most. And yeah, he's a good friend of mine. I can't say I hang out with him all the time, but we get
Right.
along really well. And he lives out of town, so anyways, we get dinner, and he's like, "Hey, How, I was meeting with one of your sales directors. By the way, this whole company is Vietnamese. I'm like essentially the only foreigner. Um,
So
I'm
cool.
but like
Right. Right.
I'm American." And then he was explaining like, and the guy, the host, he's Slovakian Vietnamese, but he's much more Vietnamese than I am. He speaks it like totally natively and that kind of thing. Um, he's explaining, yeah, I was getting coffee with your sales director, and she was telling me like, oh, the two of you, as in me and her. She was explaining how we have a great working relationship, very respectful. We say hi in the morning, what's up, what's going on. We try to help each other out. That's
Okay.
great. The minimum of a professional relationship.
Yes.
In America, I don't know about you, Ken, but when I was working in the States, it's great that we have that. Well, that's the professional
Yes.
relationship is very important. But when it comes to personal, like going out with your coworkers and that kind of thing, it's not as much as Vietnam. Vietnam is a different level. Like she was explaining, like, well, How doesn't invite us over to his house and have dinner together. I was like, man, it's like introducing to my family. It's like, I'm
It's yeah, it's
Vietnamese like way thing to do, right? To invite
absolutely.
coworkers to your home and introduce them to your family, make sure everyone knows each other. And I do that to some extent. Like my parents who live here, they've attended a couple team events, and the team
Okay.
loves talking to them and that kind of
Oh,
thing.
they must
I never
love that.
invite anyone to my house. I never invite anyone to my house. I'm a homebody. I like to go home after work, and I don't go out. I do drink, but not like that much. I like to keep it separated, basically. But Vietnamese people don't really see it that way. And then my friend was telling this because he was then explaining to her, like, oh, Hal's American. He's like a banana. He's Asian in front, but he's an American at the end of the day. And Vietnamese people, they have very little sense of privacy. And I don't say that in a bad way. It's just how it is. It's like
Oh,
people
it's so true.
very like
Yes.
they like to know what's going on. The concept of personal space is very limited.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
it's not their fault. It's my fault, right? I live in their country. I have to
It's so
adapt.
it's so endearing to me.
Yeah.
You know what
No,
I
I mean,
mean?
I
Like,
appreciate it too, but
yeah.
sometimes as CEO, it's like, well, like, I know other Vietnamese CEOs might be doing that or whatever, but it's just not in my personality.
Yeah.
And anyways, it's just things like that you have to balance at work a little bit.
Yeah, it's and it's how do you this cultural thing is part of also too, like so many expats that I saw over the years, seeing people come and land and trying to integrate culturally was where, a lot of pressure, um, to understand what's going on. And like you said, you find out you think you're doing really good. And then you find out the expectation is something, a definition you don't understand. You're like, you mean I'm supposed to invite people over to my house? And
Yes.
yeah,
I,
opening up your home.
a lot of the expat CEOs that live here, they all live in the same place usually,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
BP compound. I'm sure you've been there, Ken.
yeah,
And you have like the Standard Charter CEO, you have like the Nestle CEO. All the diplomats live in this
yeah,
massive compound in Ho Chi Minh City. And this compound has all these beautiful villas with big lawns, and you can
yep.
put out chairs and tables out there and have like 50-person dinners if you
Yes,
want, kind of thing. And
that's what they do.
and that's what they do. And all the CEOs, they've done it for essentially decades since the
Yeah.
business has started here. And, I live in a 900 square foot apartment. I can't host more than 10. Like, and 10
Yeah. And you do have to be, I think the more inclusive you are at those events, it's more important, right? Inviting 10 people over to your apartment or your home and have dinner would be a little tough to explain.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of upset people.
Yeah, you have to. The bubble just keeps getting
Yeah.
bigger. I think we do those on occasion, but we do them on more team events. I don't really.
I think
invite
team level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it like? I mean, do you ever look around and go, I just want to run away from this? I mean, because you're all the CEOs I know, and I've worked with a lot of CEOs. They really, at the corporate level, it's tough. They are lonely in a way because they're only friends at work. They're only trusted advisors at work. It's a CFO and HR. It's the money person and the human person. And even those are still arm's length because even more important, it's a money person and the person, right? The human person. So you've got to like this arms. So it's a tough job at the top. And you did this from 25. And all of a sudden now like I said, you've got a real business. You got 60 people depending on you or times 5. What's it, how do you cope with the weight of that? Or do you not let it become heavy?
So I mean, you can see it 2 ways. You can see it as a burden or weight.
Yeah, yeah.
Or you can see it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so it comes. We were chatting off mic about ChatGPT just now. So
yes,
let me give you 2 examples.
Great.
So one is the whole ChatGPT thing, right? Every CEO is thinking about using it right now because it could lead to cost savings or doubling of revenue, whatever.
Yeah.
And I've been introducing it to the team slowly. Like I just went to a roundtable of other media company executives in Thailand the other day, and there was about 15 of us, and all of us were giving case studies about how to implement it, use cases, that kind of thing, and it was blown away.
Wow, that'd been great.
I've been teasing it with a couple people that I knew would be adopters, like the first adopter mentality kind of people, and then the ones that were not. And the ones that were not were immediately negative. They were giving kind of negative, not like overly negative, but like a bit negative feedback, kind of excuses why it's not good. And I was like, it is good. Like it's AI. It's just like there's no way to say that it's not good. Like it's just about how to use it though.
Yes.
I was telling people the best paid people in the future, it could be 6 months from now, 6 years, are actually prompt writers. People that know what to input to then get the output out.
This is what I'm seeing.
Yeah. It's like an interview. If the interviewer sucks because they don't know anything about the topic or the person or what they're talking about, then the guest on the show is only going to give as good answers as the host can ask, right? So I was telling people like prompt writers will be paid fabulously. Like it's not about even if you're a good CEO anymore. It's just like something like ChatGPT, and I'll talk about the next example in a little bit. It's essentially a super intern and all these AI tools.
Yes.
if you know how to give real-time feedback to a person, like imagine if I'm telling Ken, Ken, you got to do something different in your videos. What do you think about adding that? Okay, let's say you add that and give me the
Yeah.
second round. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but how about that? And then you
Yes.
change it.
It's this
It's
the
the
iterative
AI,
coaching.
it's iterative. It's not just expecting to like type something
Yes.
and it's going to be brilliant. No person would be like that either. That's why it's called intelligence at the end. It's like a human intelligence, but
Yeah.
that's artificial. And I think some people, um, they immediately kind of get flustered or negative or defensive about it, and other people
Yes.
are very first adopter, innovative thinking. And me as the CEO, it's lonely at the top, as you
Yeah.
said,
It's tough.
and how to align everybody together to achieve the same
Yeah.
summit is extraordinarily difficult, especially something like AI. I mean, this is just the discussion about AI and
Yeah.
automation and all that within the company is just a small part of the
Yeah.
bigger mission. Which goes to my second point, connected a little bit. I just came back from Africa a couple months ago. I was hiking Mount Kilimanjaro. It's about 6,000-meter mountain. It takes about 8 days to get to the top. You wake up cold. You go to sleep cold. Tents. There's no running water, and it's freezing toward the end, especially. So that was the first time in maybe about a year or year and a half that I felt like hyper motivated.
Really?
Yeah, but also consistent. Like motivation comes up and down, but
Yes.
you as a person, your consistency should, what is really marks you. But the whole trip was not only very, very consistent in a good way, but the motivation was higher than ever because it's like I got to get to the top. My uncle and my dad were with me, and a few other travelers. And the thing was, we were all there for the same reason, which is to get to the top of the mountain, or the outcome's the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our motivations for doing it, how we prepared, how we planned for it, we're all different. Like we're all random people at the end of the day that decided to go on a plane to Africa and do this thing. And we're all very different. Like there's me, there's my uncle who's 75, my dad who's 67. And then there are four other travelers. One was a retired primary school teacher from Ireland, a dad and a daughter combo from Canada, and
Okay.
people worked in restaurants. And then the fourth guy was like, I don't know exactly, I could be wrong, but he's from Canada. His name's Kevin, cool guy. Still chat with him every now and then on Instagram and all that. And then I think he's like a Arctic Circle engineer. Like he works for the government or something in the Arctic Circle, like building like oil pipelines or whatever it is in the Arctic Circle. So, anyways, everyone's extremely very
Right.
random.
Yeah. Very random.
We're all there just for the same reason, which is get to the top of the mountain. And if you think about it in terms of either personal relationships, like your girlfriend or your
Yeah.
parent or your whatever, or like in a team of a company, it's all random people at the end of the day. So, the important thing is to have that same outcome. How you get there, one path could be much longer or more expensive or
Yes.
a lot more effort or be miserable. And that's the one you want to avoid, right? But if you can have the same summit and you can get to that same route, then it'll just be better. And if you apply that at a company, like my company, I hadn't felt
Yeah.
like that for a year or 2 years almost. Like we're growing, we're making money, but I could sense that there was a lot of misalignment within the company and people were trudging along. We're probably spending we had too many staff that weren't motivated. And yeah, you're growing and making money, but it's going to be a pretty rocky ride
Yeah.
to the
You can
so if
tell you're not aligned.
you're on the
Yeah.
same page,
Yeah.
all the small tactical things, but also the bigger picture, then it's just going to be a more fun experience. And you can say that for relationships too. Like, if you're dating somebody and he or she's just not really into you, but you're still seeing each other, you don't know if they're going to get married. I just watched this really stupid Netflix movie last night because I had nothing better to do about like, it's called like, he's just not that into you. It's such a stupid movie. And it's like, but it's kind of true, right? Like there was a couple within the characters where they'd been together for like 7 years, and then all of her girlfriends were saying, "Oh, he's an asshole for not like marrying you yet. Who does that after just even 5? Like if it's
Yeah.
beyond
Yeah.
5, you're not getting married." And she's like, "No, no, no, no." And then at the end of the movie, they don't get married. Anyways, the example of the Mount Kilimanjaro was exactly that applied across so many
Yeah.
different. It was like it was really refreshing. It got me. I'd never felt that kind of alignment and just like everyone's up at the same time every morning, has coffee, bang out a breakfast, go hike for 10
Yeah.
hours, do the same thing every day for the next eight days.
Oof.
Um, some people,
Yeah.
had a tough time getting through it, needed a little bit of help, need help carrying a bag, whatever. People just kind of chipped in. And we were just hyper motivated. We all wanted to get to the top, which is fantastic. So.
Interesting. And so you're trying to figure out how to create that magic back at work.
Yeah, I mean, I told a story a couple months ago when I came back, and a lot of people loved it. And it's slowly happening at
Yeah.
in each teams. I can't say it's like the company is fully there yet, but what company is? I just watched a
It's
documentary
difficult.
last night about. I watch a lot of stuff. Anyways, it was about the electronics maker Philips from Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So, back in the 80s and 70s, they were the pioneers of like VHS and cassettes
Yeah.
and, videos and lights and stuff like that. And then they started moving into electronics. And, their market cap has gone from something like 150 billion to 15 billion over the last couple decades. So they're a tenth of the size that they are now. And the documentary was talking about all the innovations that they've lost and all the bad bets they took and everything. And now actually Philips, they only call themselves a healthcare company. Like if you look online and everything, they just call them healthcare because they're now just making like radiology machines and stuff. So they went from lights and cassettes to like TVs to now just making healthcare products, and they've abandoned everything else. And 20 years ago, they did a not podcast. Philips was the first investor in the semiconductor industry in Taiwan. And in Europe, they literally played a very large part of inventing microchips.
And they were, oh my goodness,
they own 30% of TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, which is now worth like hundreds of billions of dollars. And then they sold it after just a couple years of founding.
Could you imagine the executive that was over there going, I don't know why we're making these, what do they call these things? Wafers? You eat wafers. Why are we making wafers in China? And that's some guy took the $5 million profit out of the investment.
The executive that signed that sale
Could
agreement.
You imagine? That guy, right? He's like,
it's like, what the heck just happened?
Well, he's probably at that moment, he's probably like, look, I made $5 million profit. I'm a hero. And meanwhile, today it's a $5 billion mistake every year.
No, it's more than that.
Well, I mean, every year, like the revenue is probably $5 billion for the last 15 years.
Yeah. Just to put the final comment on that, the value, the 30% that they acquired the company for, which I don't know how much it cost. I don't know what
peanuts
the principal was, but today it's worth 150 billion. Like the equity value.
It's worth 10 times the current value of the company.
Exactly. It's worth more than the entire company.
10x the company, the one investment.
Yeah.
Holy cow, man. What a bananas way to look at, imagine that guy laying in bed at night wondering what the bonus that could have been. So how's maybe share a little bit about, I think, one of the things that, we had is kind of friends going through that I got to see early peaks on where, and we talked about this before, just about what people are going through. We never know. And you've had a lot of success. You had a great early career. You made a bet on yourself. I think you really did make a pretty good bet on yourself, which very admirable. And you've done it. You got that first grind. You put everything together. You're running the company. It's like you said, you've turned the corner. You're making money. You're a viable asset in the media industry in Vietnam. I mean, in some ways, you're almost a gorilla. Especially in your vertical in Vietnam. But yet still, you've got your own challenges personally. I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that And how do you talk to yourself, and how do you manage the mental health side?
Yeah, thanks, Ken, for touching upon that. So yeah, a lot of people they 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 tell me, like, especially young students,
Yes.
they they're like, oh, how you I really look up to you. I want in Vietnam they call them idols, which is such a stupid word to say, but in the
Yeah.
Vietnamese, just the Vietnamese way of putting it.
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah.
And I just kind of feel like, I know I'm successful, like in a sense, like I've got a company, it's going great. We're taking care of
Yep.
people's lives. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, right? It's just it's pretty awesome.
It's
Uh,
awesome. Right. Yeah.
pat yourself on the back a little bit, right? But I think I tell people entrepreneurship is good for the soul, but it's terrible for your heart. Soul, as in more like figuratively, but
Yeah.
heart literally, like your health.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like the
It's great.
stress,
It's a great statement.
and honestly, I haven't slept very well the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't sleep. I don't go to sleep and enjoy my sleeping very well. I love sleeping,
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
but I can't say I've had like A+ sleep for a very long time. And sometimes it makes me wonder: is it worth it? Doing all that
Mm.
at the risk of your health.
Yeah. The toll it takes.
I did have this leg problem that about. About almost 2 years ago, uh, I was diagnosed with this genetic disorder.
Mm.
So it's not curable. There's no treatment. That basically means my nerves are very weak. If I damage them or uh, do anything to aggravate it, the nerves can like shut down. So this happened for the first time ever 2 years ago, but apparently I was born with it.
Yeah.
Um, and my left foot was paralyzed. And I could still walk because I have my other foot, but um, yeah, that was scary. And I remember going to, the healthcare system is so screwed up in the US. That's another topic in itself, but
Yeah.
during COVID, so I had to wait for the primary care doctor appointment, which took 2 months. Went to see him, which took like 20 minutes. And he's like, yeah, you're perfectly healthy, but obviously you got this issue. So, and at the time we didn't know it was a nerve
Yeah.
issue. He thought it was like something. So he's like, okay, I think it's something neurological. So let's go send you to the neurologist.
Okay.
I got to wait another 3 goddamn months for that. So 5 months from the point that my foot stopped working to when I saw the doctor. And that was just like another 20-minute thing. And luckily he diagnosed me correctly. Like, he saw me, did a couple tests. He was like, okay, something's wrong. Let's have you take a genetic test, which I did at home, sent it to the mail, came back with the result. And yeah, I remember the doctor was just saying like, yeah, I think, I can't remember exactly. But it's called hereditary neuropathy. So basically, I can't remember the exact ratio, but only 1 out of like 15,000 people in the US have this problem. So it's a very rare disease. And he basically said he has no idea when it's going to heal, and it's a lifetime disease. And it varies in terms of uh, how the level severity.
Okay.
It could go up and down. Like, so even if you get better next month, you never know if it can come back. And it could come back with ferocity. It can come back with nothing.
That's just, yeah. How do you cope with that? Like, just know, like,
Yeah.
you're.
I was there were a lot of moments where I was just like, maybe I should just chill and just spend all my money, and like, why think about this and that and do all this future planning when I have this issue? I should just like, enjoy myself.
Really enjoy life. Really enjoy life. Yeah.
Yeah. Why? I mean, enjoy life is a more positive way to put it too. But I was at times just thinking, oh, like, just give this up, and why do I have to keep working on this anymore? It doesn't matter. Um, and it was strange. It just, one day I got better. It took a lot of. I had to see chiropractors. I was getting
Yeah. I
massages.
remember
Like,
getting massage. Yeah.
I was training. I was trying to just be active. it could do anything from walking to going to the gym while being sensitive to my nerve areas. Um, yeah, and then one day I just woke up and got better. I did make progress through those few months
Yes.
for the
Yeah.
diagnosis, but it wasn't like significant. Like we're not talking like every week that went by, I could slowly get better. It wasn't like that. It was just like uh, it was very incremental improvements.
Oof. I mean, that would be
I thought
nerve wracking too.
2 years before I can get better. Um, I mean, I don't know how I got through it. You just kind of wake up every day and just get through it, right? Like there was no other feedback, just that I could even give myself. I mean, I knew that I had great support around me, mentally, or just like family and stuff. But yeah, it was pretty awful times. I'm better now. I still have the condition technically, so I
Yeah.
need to be watchful. It does kind of suck that like anytime I'm sitting for more than 30 minutes an hour, I can feel my leg kind of itching a little bit. I got to get up. I don't actually tell many people this,
Yeah.
like my whole condition, but like I just decline invites to go to the theater now. I don't really anything that requires sitting down a lot, or I do use the bathroom break a lot. If I know if I'm going to do like a 2-3 hour dinner, like I'm going up every 20-30 minutes going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Just like
Or move around to talk to people. And yeah.
so yeah, it's
Yeah. I mean, that's, I think it's, for me, it's a reminder, one of my takeaways after doing the jar around the country and interviewing so many people, and realizing literally every person I met, no matter what their current situation, was that you never know what people are going through, I'm driving around in the city and I pull up to a random house, not random. They've asked me in, and I meet, it's just this house on the street, could be any street, and you hear people's stories, and it just, your takeaway is, man, everybody is facing, has got something going on in their life at some point that's pretty significant. And we're still showing up to work. The person that the checkout lady helping you with your groceries, man, we got to give some grace to people and say hi, and be kind to people, because we just don't know what news they've gotten, or what they're dealing with from the week before.
yeah, I agree. And I mean, since I've gotten better, I've been a bit more
Yeah.
aware,
Yeah.
self-aware of those things too. Because again, going from the transition of delusional, invincible young person to
Yes.
having to go to the doctor for the first time in a more serious capacity.
Yeah.
Um, Even more recently, actually, Ken, you don't know this, but 2 weeks ago, well, it's been a few months. I had this mole on my
Okay.
shoulder near my neck, and my mom, who's a nurse, she was like, "How you got to get that checked?" I was like,
Ooh.
"Yo, it has been growing. I think it's just been there." She's like, "No, How it could be cancer. Go do it." Okay, I made some phone calls. Here in Vietnam, the medical system is surprisingly easier to
Oh yeah,
navigate that way.
absolutely.
But, I had it removed, and the doctor. I got a text message from the hospital saying, "Oh, you have to come in to hear your
Yeah.
results. Like you can't be we can't communicate it over a phone." And my mom's
Yes.
like, "The heck? What do you mean you can't communicate over the phone? Like, is it probably patient privacy, right?" But um, she was like, "Oh my god, this is like crazy. Like you have to go tomorrow." Um, and so I'm texting her. She's in the States. I'm in Vietnam.
Yeah.
All this is happening, and I got the result back negative. So that's good. And she's like, "Oh, how my heart was racing," because it could have been like, which is true. It could have
Yeah.
been,
You don't tell your mom stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. Um,
You go get the result first, and then you can call her and tell her. But you don't tell her, I got it back, and like, here's the next step.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, it's heavy. That's real life, though. That's real
yeah.
life.
And, those things is it could be happening to anybody. The leg thing or whatever other that's medical, but like even more mental. I Ken, I'm not going to go into details on a public podcast, but my ex girlfriend that I saw last year in the summer, one of those couple summers ago, um, her mother had committed suicide, and uh, this might be a bit controversial to say. I don't know
Mm.
if it's true or not, actually, but I remember telling somebody this, and the response I got was like, "Oh, like people that have committed suicide, it's genetic. Actually, it's something to do with like um,
Hmm.
people's um, well, I guess it's just like a familial genetic trait." I was like, I don't know anything about this. I casually looked online and all that, but I look back and I can't say anything bad about my ex, right? Not necessarily, but just her life experience that she went
Yes.
through,
Yeah.
it, like the way that she saw her family, like her parents were divorced and mother obviously didn't do so well for herself, but just her relationship with her family was very negative. And
Hmm.
a lot of people have those negative experiences, like their
Yeah.
family got
Yes. A
divorced. I mean,
lot of
you're
people
you're
do.
divorced, right? And it's just a matter of how you approach the next step. I mean, you took it, like, in a great way. I mean, just knowing you as a friend, like, it's a different life direction, right? And you move on. But with her, it was all very negative and at the time, I didn't really think much about it, but after my
Yeah.
mental experience too, I started doing a lot of research and therapy about how people approach mental health, and a lot of it has to do with yourself too, like how you
Yes.
see it. Like, yes, it's a
For
difficult
sure.
situation, but you need to have the willpower and the audacity to like overcome it. But
Yep.
if you bring it down, it will continue to bring you down. And
Yes.
I think that's one thing that when people have any sorts of challenges, they tend to make it a scapegoat and use it as a way to justify how much pain they're in, like
Yes. I
that
agree.
they're victim. And I can totally get why that's the response for a lot of people, but that's also a very unhealthy response because if you're always the victim, that means you're a victim. You're not able to overcome that to
Yes.
become
Yeah. Agree.
whatever you want to call it, the overcomer. What's there's most
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's sort of not a survivor, but more than a survivor. You don't want to be a survivor. You want to be. You want to be somebody that.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean.
That crushes the. It's interesting. I did have a chat with somebody around this, and one of his takeaways was labels. He was diagnosed as he was autistic at a mature age. He's 60. He was found out he was autistic, and he said, I don't want that label, because it comes with assumptions, and people autistic, and they immediately put you in a bucket. And he said, then I become autistic to myself, and then I have autism, and then everything I do, I'm autistic. He says, I absolutely took that thing, took it outside, burned it, buried it. I am who I am. I'm magic in my own way. I've got, these great characteristics. I got some things I'm not, I'd like to change or, manage, but I'm not going to put a label on myself because that will get inside my head and affect how I think and how I act and how I perceive myself.
I agree. I agree. Um, I think, I mean, as a minority, I'm Asian in
Yeah.
America. I'm a minority here. I'm not, but
Yeah. Or
uh,
you're a minority in both places, friend.
yeah, that's right. I'm a foreigner.
You're a
Um,
foreigner there in a weird way.
I think that was also something I experienced identity wise. This
Yeah.
whole label kind of discussion.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, in the U.S., Asians are known for being, very hardworking. We
Yep.
probably make a little bit more money than the average person. We have a good family, values, whatever.
Yep.
But there's also a lot of negative labels on us.
Yes.
And just over the years, especially since coming to Vietnam, where it's so homogenous here, at least ethnically, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
because of my ethnicity, I fit that homogeneity, but of course not my nationality. But it's just hilarious to see because you have to think about how if you're in a foreign environment, especially like let's say Vietnam, because you've been there. Um, it's important to remember that people like me and you are quite global citizens. We've experienced a lot of different parts of the world. But in Vietnam, a lot of people have never even left where they were born, and
Oh
they
yeah.
work, and that's
Yes.
just where they live. And
Yes.
the U.S. you can say the same. A lot of people have
Absolutely. In
been
the
born
US, same.
where
Yeah.
they still live, and so for us though, sometimes I forget that. I'm much better about it now.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but for us as very privileged Americans, with our passport, we can hop on a plane and just go to, wherever we want to go really fast. Um, Vietnamese don't have that. Um, Even if they did have money, I was just
hey, you can't go to every country. I mean, you got to get a
yeah.
visa. It's not easy.
I had a random breakfast yesterday with one friend of mine, and one was a person I met for the first time. I don't know his full story, but he was born in Vietnam, left when he was super young. He's in his 40s, 50s. He's now like a vice president at BlackRock or something like that, doing very well for himself. Um, but he has these memories of Vietnam as a child, and he took his two kids who are very American to come to Vietnam for the first time on this particular trip. And he was telling me, yeah, my whole family here is blue collar. They're mechanics on motorbikes and they're taxi drivers. And yeah, I'm a damn vice president at BlackRock. It's
Why?
just different lives, like he's probably making like hundreds of thousands of dollars living in New York City. Like it's just like
Absolutely.
it's just crazy that your blood will connect to you and your skin color, but then you live such different lives. And I don't know. I mean, this goes back to the whole label and identity thing.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I experienced quite a lot of that coming back here as well. In retrospect,
Yeah.
like America, I think America is and it's true, it's a very racist place.
Yeah.
Um, and I used to live in San Francisco, New York, and all these liberal left wing job going far left. No, sorry, I'm being a bit labeled. I
Yeah.
mean,
A bit labelish of you.
I'm a person in the middle. But anyways,
Yeah.
removing politics from the discussion, I think San Francisco is also a very racist place. Like you think it's liberal and
Yeah.
like
You would
everyone
think it's be very open.
very inclusive. No, I don't think so. I think I look back to some of my first professional experiences just living in San Francisco. Um, like professionally, there's a reason why a lot of Asians aren't in leadership positions. And when I say Asians, I don't mean Indians. Indians are in the top, but
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, the CEOs of every company nowadays. But as a Southeast Asian, East Asian in particular, there's very few.
Yeah. It's
But also,
true.
but also from a like pop culture media point of view, there's a few kind of idols that you can look up to growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had Bruce.
Hey,
What's his
Bruce
name?
Lee. Jackie Chan was I think a really good one. I mean, Jackie was a really good first main and long established
Even then,
mainstream.
it was a bit stereotypical. Like
But it
they're
was
like
a care.
like
His early roles were very caricature.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Later on, I think he had a more creative control, but early on, he did some goofy roles.
right.
Yeah,
Although there's two winners of Oscars this year that were of Asian
I
descent.
did
One
see
of them
that. Yeah,
really stood out.
Michelle Yeoh and the other guy. Is he Vietnamese or is he's Vietnamese?
Vietnamese Chinese, but born in
Chinese. Okay. Okay.
Chinese ethnicity, but born in Vietnam.
But born in Viet.
When I was young, to go to the States.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's. I mean, maybe kind of wrap things up. Let you go. I think this label thing about what we call ourselves and how we perceive the self perception. Really critically important. To make sure you put a positive label on yourself. Don't let other people do it. Don't let culture define who you are. Make sure you've got good self talk. This is really what it is at the end, right? It's self talk. What label you let yourself kind of stick, and make sure it's a good. If you are going to label yourself, make sure you give yourself a good label, a good mental health. For your own brain, because it does set the tone. I think for how you have that conversation about who you are. I like the conversation, and still I come back to, if you're a leader, especially if you're a leader, is, making sure you find that medium ground between the privacy that you need, right? That loneliness that you kind of have as a result, but also reaching out and, kind of engaging with people, kind of reaching down. I think you're finding your own balance culturally and personally. Kind of an
I think,
interesting journey.
yeah, always take a more positive lens on things.
Yeah.
It's never, it doesn't always have to be fun and happy. right? I think always taking a positive angle on things.
Great.
Knowing that it's a challenge, it's okay, but being up for it is it's much better than being a victim or being
Yes.
negative. I
Yeah.
think everyone's gonna have tough things in life come to them, maybe
Yeah.
professionally, physically, mentally, and it's always a matter of how you approach it. I think how I overcame my physical health challenge was just having a more positive, like knowing that I'll do whatever I can in my power, and it is what it is. But I'm going to wake up every morning and stick to it. I think not knowing what's going to actually not knowing what's going to happen, but it's much better than just like lying in bed and just being hopeless, right? I think
I I mean, I think it
just
was great. That was a time we were really getting to know each other when you found out, working out every day together, with the trainer. And I think you did. I did see that change in your perception of, a little bit of the discovery and a little bit of the, oh, shoot, and a little bit of woe is me followed up by, yeah, just got to do this every day. And, step by step, here's the plan. And, it could get a little worse, could get really bad, but, I'm going to, there's hope. And I got a good chance of just having a pretty normal life. And you went on that path. And, I think part of it is too, if you're telling your body, I'm going to have a normal life, I think sometimes your body's like, okay,
yes,
yeah, you're not like, I'm not going to accept a broken body. You have to fix yourself. Um, that positive attitude and kind of instructing your body to heal itself.
mm,
It's powerful. How, man, awesome catching up with you as a friend personally, and then also just great sharing for CEOs, and I think also for people who idolize their leaders to know, they're real humans, and they're also um, facing challenges every day, physically or emotionally, mentally, and that magic moment of aligning everybody to the same summit. Cool.
very good, very cool. Yeah, pleasure to share, Ken, and best of wishes to the Jar Foundation. I think it's a great mission, and hopefully more people can tune in and share their stories as well.
Yeah.
Best of luck to you, Ken.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Hal, again. And thanks everybody. See if I can find my exit the live feed somewhere in here, kind of slowly creep our way out.
Yeah.